Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today is part 2 of Can You Make Money While Camping? This is our personal experience of work camping for 3 years. My wife and I spent on the road working at different campgrounds across the country. Part 1, I talked basically about how we got started, how we got into work camping, where they're located. Their home base is actually out in Livingston, Texas. Today I want to talk about, our first stop was out in Waller, Texas at a campground called Jellystone Park, a Yogi Bear campground. Quite a large park. I mentioned yesterday that my wife worked in the camp store selling everything a camper could possibly want and so much more that they really don't want, but they're going to buy it anyways. I spent my time in landscaping. We were there for 8 months. We started March 1st. Our last day was October 31st, so 8 months exactly. What we did was I made sure that every flower bed had blooming, pretty flowers in it, covered in mulch. Everything was watered. Nothing was dying. Everything was bright and colorful and pretty for the guests to enjoy. I also took care of the miniature golf course, which really wasn't a whole lot to it. Basically, I'd go first thing in the morning with a blower and blow all the leaves and pine needles off the golf course. I'd open up the self-service putt-putt center so people could come up and pick up a putter and pick up a golf ball, scorecard, make sure there were pencils. And then it was their responsibility to put everything back at the end of their round of golf. So I'd go by a couple, 3 times a day to make sure that this was actually happening. Of course, you find golf balls and putters laying all over the place, which is typical, but part of the job. I also made sure that the fountains were running and the lights were working, that the water was crystal clear and not murky or anything like that. So that's what we did for 8 months. We worked at campground in Texas. It was hot, but it wasn't too bad. The humidity wasn't bad at all. Very little rain. Again, one of the benefits of doing work camping is you make a small paycheck, which is like $8 an hour, but you get a campsite, you get your electric, your water, your sewer, your cable, your laundry is all paid for. So you have no expenses other than, in our case, because I wasn't retired, I had to get my insurance on the open market, Obamacare. We paid for our own groceries and we paid for our cell phones. Other than that, those were our only expenses. So even though we were only making $8 an hour, we were saving quite a lot of money by doing the work camping. So we worked 40 hours a week. We got 2 days off to, grocery shop and do laundry and go explore. We did a lot of that while we were out in Central Texas. We explored all over the place. Went to College Park, went to the George Bush Sr. Presidential Library and saw his grave. Interesting landscape out there in Texas. So we spent, like I say, 8 months working. November 1st rolls around and we're now unemployed. So most people, they either have already got another job lined up and go immediately to that job, or you do what we did. Was I was heavily involved with Boy Scouting years ago here in Florida, and there was a big Boy Scout camp in Brooksville called Sand Hill Scout Reservation, 1,200 acres. And I worked out a deal. They let us come and park our camper, full hookup, for a few hours of work each week. Basically, all I did was keep an eye on the camp. I would drive around, make sure nobody's trespassing, make sure there's no fires. If there's a water line break, we'd get it fixed and we basically got to see our family and enjoy the area for 4 months before we had to go back to work. The nice thing about this situation was the guy that owned the campground in Texas also owned a Yogi Bear campground in Cherokee, North Carolina. So he shows up one day, and I got the chance to talk to him, and said, listen, we'd be very interested in going to your Cherokee, North Carolina campground next year. So we talked it over. He agreed. We're all set up. Before we even leave our first job, we've already got our second job lined up. We're going to Cherokee, North Carolina. So about the middle of February, we left Florida, headed north to Cherokee. Still cold, still snow on the ground. We got there about 2 weeks early. They let us go ahead and set up, obviously. And again, my wife was going to work this time in the combination camp registration office and campground store. So they did it all out of one building at this particular campground. And again, I was doing, this time I was doing maintenance. Much smaller campground, so much smaller staff to work with. Still, the majority of the people there were work campers, just like ourselves. So we spent, again, 8 months in the Smoky Mountains in Cherokee. 2 days off, 40 hours a week, $8 an hour, all the same benefits. And on our time off, we spent mostly in the Smoky Mountains, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, and all those areas out and around there, all throughout the Smoky Mountain area. Beautiful country. If you've never had the chance to go to the Smoky Mountains or Gatlinburg area, I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. Again, we stayed until October 31st, turned around and headed back to Florida to the Boy Scout camp where we set up and stayed, we didn't stay 4 months this time because while we were in Florida, we set up our next job, and that was in Cody, Wyoming at the Buffalo Bill Campground and Cabins. And it was right in the middle of town, right in the middle of Cody, Wyoming. Talk about stepping back in time, like an old western town. Obviously, it's a big tourist destination, so that's why it looked the way it did. This particular job, I wasn't in maintenance. My wife wasn't in the campground store. We were in the laundry department. Basically, what we did, we were called room preps. And when you would check out of the cabin, we would come in, strip the beds of all the linens, pick up all the towels and washcloths that you used, empty all the trash cans, and we would leave clean sheets and pillowcases for the number of beds that were in the room. And then housekeeping would come in, clean the cabin out, and make the beds up for the next set of guests that were coming in. And that's what we did, again, 8 months, March 1st through October 31st, another 8-month work camping job. Again, you work 40 hours a week. You're off the same days as your spouse. We spent all of our time in Yellowstone National Park. We were about 50 miles east of the east entrance to Yellowstone. So every week we were going into the mountains or into Yellowstone National Park. We actually got to go and see Old Faithful erupt. I can't even tell you how many waterfalls we experienced. The lakes, the rivers, the mountains. Again, one of the best reasons to become a work camper is the parts of the country that you actually get to go and explore. Had we not become work campers, we'd have never seen these things. We would have never been to the Bush Museum in College Park, Texas. We'd have never made it to see Old Faithful and Yellowstone. Just the opportunities alone are endless. And again, all the same perks as the other two places. We made $8 an hour. We got our free campsite. We had water, sewer, electric, cable TV, laundry was all taken care of for 40 hours a week. I just can't say enough good things about work camping. Once our job in Cody ended, we headed back to Florida again. But by the time we got to Florida, my left knee was giving me all kinds of problems. When we got back to the Boy Scout camp where we were staying, I went and saw a doctor, needed to have my knee replaced. And that became the end of our work camping experience. Would I do it again? Absolutely, in a heartbeat. Absolutely in a heartbeat. That's how much we enjoyed doing it. Just the sights alone that you get to go see is enough to make anybody want to do it. You save all kinds of money because basically, what are your expenses? Your groceries, your cell phones. If you're not retired, then maybe insurance. I can't say enough good about work camping. If you're interested, take a few minutes, look up Work Camper News on the internet. They have all kinds of information that you could possibly want or need about how to get involved in this organization. Folks, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to answer anything I can. Until next time, folks, you all take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you later.